guys, and welcome back to another FPV guide video. Today we're going to be taking a look at a new drone that is really tickling my imagination and my fantasy. It's doing things I love to do, and even better, it is completely free to use, no need for a Part 107. You can use it commercially without having an FAA license. Of course, you know where I'm going with this. I'm going to an underwater drone, or an ROV, remotely operated vehicle under the water. So let's take a look at this. Here is the PowerRAY from PowerVision. Well, at least this is the Explorer case, the big case from PowerVision. The PowerRAY comes in 3 kits, starting at $1,400 and going up. But already at $1,400, it contains everything you need to go and do something like, say, a hull inspection at your local marina. And that's really what's cool with this. Both, it's really cool to go diving, checking stuff out underwater without getting your feet wet. That said, I am a bit of a water baby. I love water. So I like to get in the water, but there's a lot of times when you want to be able to get good imagery from underwater without actually having to get in the water. And this is what the PowerRAY ROV is for. Let's check it out. You can see it. There is a TAS lock right on top here. So once you unlock it, it has like a key slot here also for an official key. But you just basically pull here and it pops open. We're just gonna run the zipper all the way around and turn this around. I don't know if you guys can really see, it's a big box on the table today. So we have 2 things. In the bottom of the box is the ROV, or the PowerRAY itself, along with a control link, which is this part here, that basically communicates with the underwater craft. Up here we have our tablet mount. Up in the top of this, we find this Velcro lid, and I'm gonna flip it down. The top here contains the tether, a set of virtual reality goggles, which is a ZEISS VRone goggle, which is a really nice goggle, the power charger, a sonar, and also the controller. So that's all in the top. And these cases, as usual, if you have paid attention to PowerVision, it's a really cool case. They're really good at making nifty cases. Let me put these lids back on for right now. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna kind of empty most of this stuff onto the table, and then we're gonna go through the different components, and then later this week I'm gonna take it out and get it in some real water here in Southern California so we can see how it behaves. We're also gonna talk a little bit about how to get good pictures with this, because I've seen a bunch of underwater drone reviews on the internet that frankly are missing some of the basic points of photography. So we're gonna touch on that too on the way. But let me unload this box and let's get to start looking at the pieces. Well, having unloaded the box, of course, the main object of desire here is the the watercraft. But this is a lot like FPV items that we have looked at and reviewed before. More importantly, the way this behaves is like a very, very, very slow fixed wing aircraft. You can kind of see how it has a lift thruster. It actually both generates lift and downforce. And when you're on the surface, it's not so much the down force, it's more the down suction from the bottom that pulls the craft down. In the back here, you have 2 pretty big thrusters that can push forward about 4 knots. So that's about its max speed. And you can choose the speed when you fly or dive by switching this switch up and down here on the controller. The entire device here is completely sealed. So inside you have a typical UAV or drone battery. It's actually the battery from PowerVision's egg, the Power Egg. And unlike the egg that gets about 15 to 20 minutes of flight time, when you put it in here at low power, which you select here, you get almost 2 hours. If you're going full throttle, you get about half to 1 hour. And if you kind of mixes it, you can probably get about an hour of flight time or dive time, that would be. Up in the front here, let's take a look at that. You can see there's a couple of really powerful LEDs. I'm gonna get you a measurement in lumen, how much power those emit later. And you can also see the 4K camera right here. I did a couple of video shots with it already, just up in the air here to see how the camera is, and it looks like a really good quality. And one of the things that most people don't realize, but you kind of get a hint at it right here, because this is the ZEISS VRone goggle. PowerVision actually have a partnership with ZEISS, which means they're using ZEISS lenses and ZEISS optics in all of their components, which is a brilliant move in terms of photographic image quality. Now, the camera up here basically goes up to 4K 25 frames per second, and it also does a 12 megapixel file, so that's a 4000 by 3000 pixel file that it will capture still shot. It both has automatic white balance, and it also have manual white balance. And remember, I was saying there's a couple of photographic things we have to touch on before you start going sailing with this. The auto white balance does work pretty cool, but if you change the pitch, or if the wave or a stream changes it, it's gonna change the color that the camera sees, and that's where a lot of people who have been showing video from this are seeing all of a sudden the corals are green, then they're blue, then they're beautifully orange again, because the automatic white balance changes. The thing about water is it's very dense, and the further you go down, the bluer it gets. So you need to kind of get in the habit of switching into manual color balance, and then just look at the screen and toggle through it and pick a great color and leave it there. Because now, even if it's doing like this, the color is not gonna change and you're still gonna have great colors. The other thing, of course, is pick the lowest ISO that's appropriate for the best dynamic range and also least amount of noise in the image. So anytime, just like with drones, they're flying cameras, well, this is a underwater camera. And you have to treat the camera with the basic knowledge of how cameras works in this situation. You cannot toss it into the water and fly out of white balance and expect to get solid colors underwater, simply because changing depths constantly changes colors on you. So that's it. Okay, now that was the up-down thruster that's sitting down here, and you see the forward backward thrusters right here. You can see them pretty big, looks like magnesium or aluminum propellers. Up here you see the screw thing. If you unscrew that, this is where the tether goes. Interestingly, when you plug in the tether, that turns on the craft. So because the aircraft, the drone, the underwater drone, is completely self-contained, once you plug it in, it's using its own internal battery. So we're not shooting power down to it while it's sailing, it's actually using its own battery, and that makes it pretty heavy. So you have about maybe 8 pounds, 3-4 kilograms of craft here. Turning this over again, we're finding another little hole here. See this little door? I'm gonna go find a little wrench and pop that open for you. Look at that. Here is a complete, there is a full thing in here with a thread in the bottom, but there's no opening, so it's completely sealed. And that is for the sonar. So this one here is the sonar that's included in the kit. You can actually buy this separately. And up on top, you'll see there's 2 holes here in this top lid. That is for you. You can run through here a heavy fishing wire, and then once it's attached to a rod, you can screw this back on like that, and you can literally use your fishing wire and whiff this way out and get it in the surface. It's going to be bobbing, and it will give you a underwater look at what's in the water. So it's kind of like a fishing reel mountable sonar. Up here is the sonar surface that emits basically a sonar click, because sonars like tick 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 sounds. They scoot down, they hit the bottom, they reflect off the bottom, and they are measured the time it takes for the round trip to the sensor here. It also have like a blue light in it. If you press these, this here is the in the water sensor, and if you press it with kind of a little bit human wet finger, you can kind of see the blue. It's called a lure light for some reason. So supposedly the blue light here will help you attract fish to see fish at night. I'm not familiar with fishing with blue light at night, so I can't really comment on that, other than it's cool. Now, more importantly though, it is made so that you can attach it into this, and you can then sail along, and it will create like a graph of the depth. So you can use this to measure depth, say in a marina, and look for shallow spots, because if you just sail on the surface, then you know how high you are, and you can immediately see if there's a shallow spot, and you can get you can do laps to get a very grid of a marina. Anyway, I'm gonna take the top off here, and with the top off, it goes right down here. So you can see where it goes right there. So I'm just gonna put it in, and I'm gonna twist it. And now one thing they said was to make sure to twist this down really good, because a couple of people have managed to lose these things while they're sailing. Apparently, thankfully, they lost them just in the pool. Make sure you tug it down good so that it stays on. Now, having installed that, let's take a look at the little thing right in front here. See this thing here? That is an electromagnet. So basically, you can attach a piece of metal here, and you tap on the screen on your iPhone, and you can also turn it on and off with the magnet release on the remote controller. So that will allow you to attach a piece of metal, and you can carry something to somewhere, and you can release it. It's also, they consider it a bait release. I'm again not that big of a fisher guy, but I'm kind of imagining maybe we could make some kind of 3D printed thing that fits into this hole, and we can use this magnet to kind of on-off a gripper claw or something. Could you imagine that? So you like sail in, and you can see the gripper claw in the camera in front. So I imagine the ship's like this, and the claw has to be right in front so we can see it in the picture. And maybe using the release, we can turn it on and off. I'm definitely gonna have to play with that. I mean, if you can't 3D print it, maybe it doesn't exist. So that's the craft here. I mentioned already, when you're mixing the speeds, you get about an hour worth of sailing time, maybe a little more. One of the great things about how this is made, it is buoyant. So when you turn the power off, it's by itself gonna come to the surface. That's a brilliant thing, because if everything goes south, your expensive underwater drone is gonna end up on the surface, and all you have to do is swim out or boat out and pick the thing up. Now, having said that, let's start looking at some of the other pieces. I want to put all of this together, but before I do, I want to go through some of the auxiliary accessories here. And here we have the charger, and it comes with a long white cable. As you know, I'm not a big fan of all these cables, because every time we get a new device, we get another charging cable. What I tend to do is use these kind of things instead. So I like these little things. I get them online, and they just plug right into here. And that allows me to literally just kind of hang the charger on a plug, and that way I have one less cable in my life. So that's how I like to do it. Now, the charger here charges everything at one time, and by the way, it also has a high-powered USB plug, so you can charge iPads and whatnot. Up in the end here, you see 3 different plugs. There is a small charging thing, and that is for the comm device, the communications device for the drone. Then you have a big charging plug, and that goes into the drone itself. And finally, you have a small USB plug here, micro USB, and that goes into the bottom of the RC controller, or I guess it is still an RC controller, isn't it? Sure it is. So that goes into the bottom here and allows you to charge that. So now you know about this one. I've been using it to charge tablets with it. It's really good for charging tablets. Now the next big item is of course the tether. And you can see here you have the 2 plugs just like there was on the charger. One that goes into the communications port and the one that goes into the drone. all of this, since once you get underwater, radio transmissions are no longer viable. Well, at least not the type of radio transmissions you and I might use. So here's what we're gonna do. Let's take a look at it. I'm gonna try to leave it in the bundle for today. And to connect it to the drone, we have to remove the little cap up here. And a very big word of warning. You can see how this has a little seal inside. When you put the seal back on, you want to keep this always protected. But when you put the cap back on, make sure you have completely dried this. So once you're done sailing, you may want to have this up in the sun. Let the sun dry it. Use a bit of a towel to make sure there's no water around this plug. So it's completely dry before you put this on. Okay, so now you can see, we just basically put pin to pin, put them down here, and once we plug it in, and we're supposed to tighten it down firmly, and supposedly this cable can lift 30 pounds. What it means is if you need to sail this from a pier, you can lower it into the water by the cable. I gotta tell you, I feel terrible lowering it into the water by the cable. I would probably rather use a little hook and grab the fin in the back here, but that's just me. And it reminds me to mention another thing. See the lighted strip here? That's kind of clipped on, and they emphasize do not attempt to pick up the drone by this. Everything is waterproof in here, but you don't want to pull off the pretty little fin. So when you handle the craft, handle it by these two big loops in the back here. You can see you can get a hold of them here, grab it around here between the motors, and just simply grab it underneath. So you can see now it turned on the underwater lights, and those lights can be adjusted from the drone controller, this one right here. So the next thing we're gonna do, let's put this over here, and you probably noticed this one here doesn't have a plug. The plug is here, and this one right here is the entire communications port. If you look on the other side, you can see here it has battery status and it has a Wi-Fi signal thing. So to turn this on, we're gonna push and hold. There you go. Now we've got power in the power, and in a minute or two it's gonna start up the Wi-Fi hotspot. Now what happens when we start up the Wi-Fi hotspot is we'll be able to pick it up from my iPhone 6 here, and we'll be able to see what we're doing on the iPhone. So let's start out by connecting it to here. So basically we're not transmitting any power. There's no power here that's being transmitted to here. It's only a networking cable, which makes the cable simpler, but of course it does limit the overall flight time because we're not transmitting power. And if you completely run this down, it's going to take you about 2 hours to charge it fully again. That said, you know, a full hour of underwater sailing is a lot, and you also get a lot more than a full hour. So you probably will run for 2 hours because you know, the full hour at medium speed, that is with the stick all forward to get full forward thrust all this time. You're not sailing with full forward thrust because unlike a regular drone, this thing, when you have it where you want it in the water, will stay in place by you just kind of gently massaging the up-down throttle here. And talking about staying in place, see this little one here, when you have the height you want, you can push this and now it's gonna stay in place. Right next to it we have the sonar engaged. We push that and now we get the sonar up on the screen. Push it again to turn the sonar off. But this is our hover in place setting. So we need to turn this one on back here, and we get a light, and it's going to take just a couple of seconds or maybe a minute to turn on, and then we'll be able to notice it's already bound with this box. So this is wirelessly controlled, and here's an important feature. You don't actually need this controller because it's wirelessly connecting, and so is your iPhone. So you can drive this with your iPhone, and I was driving it the other day, or playing with it with my Shield, So I have a Shield tablet here that's Android, and it worked perfectly well. It connects to the Wi-Fi from the hotspot, and on the screen you get, you know, like a couple of little circles that you put your finger on, and you can actually drive it directly from a tablet or a phone, and you don't need anything else. So there is a cool little feature here. Notice how this unscrews. This is like a safety belt, because when you have this, notice there's nothing in between here. So if you start pulling out on this cable, this is going in the ocean. You don't want to do that. So you want to like basically wrap this around something, kind of like my hand, or I suggest a pole at the beach. So find something, a firm object that's not going into the drink. Wrap this around, so you can see this big loop right here. Wrap it around and screw it back in on the other side, and now you have like a safety attachment that's gonna keep it from going in the drink. I'm just gonna put it back on because they do make really cool design. That's one of the things I like about PowerVision. They design everything in-house, and they have some very cool designs. The other interesting thing, have you noticed with PowerVision, they made the Power Egg, then they made the Power Eye, which is a Micro Four Thirds drone, but none of them are copying other drone designs. And interestingly, PowerVision came out with a pilot camera for the drone pilot, like for the Power Eye, before Inspire, or the DJI Inspire came out with the same flight camera. So they design in-house, and they create some really imaginative, cool designs. And they're just nice. They're cool designs. They look good, they feel good. We got power, and you can see we're connected because I can use this little dial here to change the brightness of the underwater lights. Now they're off, and I toggle them back up on. I imagine as soon as you start diving, you're probably gonna be underwater, and you probably wanna crank them all the way up. I don't know. I will find out when I go out and get this in the water here in a couple of days. We'll find out, and I'm gonna make sure I report back to you on that. Okay, next we need to grab this thing here. This is the tablet phone holder. And they've done this a little different than they typically do, because it's much sturdier than what you normally see in their tablets or tablet holders. This is all like cast metal with a little finger screw down here to attach it. So you just gotta kind of like snug it in, and then you need to release this screw, and you can slide it up. So now we have it slid up, and we just mount a phone in it, take it down, turn it back over, and tighten the screw like that, right? Now, one thing that a lot of people have noticed is to take out the one for the phone, you actually need to use a very small Phillips screwdriver, and for some reason they haven't included this in the kit. I would have liked to see that, just to have the Phillips screwdriver included, but if you're into RC toys, I am sure you already have many of them. Anyway, you need to bring a small RC screwdriver just to pull this one off in case you want to use a tablet. Okay, turning the phone on, let's try to get some picture. There, so now we are here. The first thing we're gonna do is go in here. We're gonna click on settings. We're gonna go to Wi-Fi. And look at that, it has already connected to the station here. Going through here, we're gonna scroll and find the PowerVision app. It's called Vision Plus. There it is. I'm gonna click on that, and it comes up, and notice how it right away recognized that we're already connected. So we're gonna say start sailing. Maybe that should say start diving? I don't know. It is a sailing thing, and you can see we're looking into the dirty corner of my little studio here. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna hit record, just so you can see how bad it is. I apologize, guys, but there's some cool drones over in that corner, by the way. Anybody looking for something that can fly a DSLR? I happen to have a perfect setup for a GH405 sitting here. Okay, now you have seen enough. I'm turning it off. It's been turned off. That's it, guys. Okay, so now here, you can see right here, here's the finger controllers. So by moving these, you can go forward, backwards, and over here you can adjust, you can yaw it, and you can throttle up and down so you can change the height in the water body. Up here in the corner you see the lock. You can't unlock this until it gets into the water. You remember how when I touched the sensor on the sonar, it turned on the sonar? The same thing for this thing. It will not let you turn on these motors until it's actually submerged in the water. So you basically have to power everything up and then toss it into the water or gently embed it in the water. And once you have done that, then you can click up here. Then you're gonna get the swipe to arm. So you swipe, and it just told me I'm not in the water, I can't do it. But it's gonna start, and once you do that, you can engage and you can start sailing the ship by using the sticks or here on the screen. I'm just gonna say confirm. One of the cool things that this is wireless is you can tie this off like to the railing of your boat. Make sure it's very secure, and then you can go find yourself a really soft, comfortable spot to sit and fly your underwater drone without having to sit right with your feet in the water. But of course, it's California, feet in the water is not necessarily a bad thing. Here you get altitude, or actually attitude, so it shows how the body of the drone is. So if I pick this up, you can see it's moving the pitch, and it also moves the roll. So it shows you the pitch and the roll of the craft right here. So you get an idea of how it is down under the water. And by the way, you can attach multiple. So I have this attached right now, but if you had a friend, you can attach a number 2 and hand that to a friend, and that will then say it's unit 2. And your friend won't be able to control the drone. Your friend will only be able to see the camera that you are seeing. So a good example for that might be hand a phone or put your friend's phone into the goggles. That way they can enjoy the immersive underwater experience without or while you are still sailing the craft. Now we have gone over that. Here is the sonar option right here, and down here we have the release for the magnet. So basically on the screen here it has all the same options you have on the physical controller. So again, you could sit with your iPad and fly this. Okay, and you can also see here this is the main one because there's not a secondary. This is not the secondary controller. It says main right here. And here, if you tap on it, if you don't want to see all the controls and you're flying sticks, then you can just double tap and now you get a full view of the underwater world. Okay, so we need to get into the menu here. We just click on menu, and this is really important. Right now you can see I've set it to 4K 25 frames per second, and I've also selected what probably is 9,000 Kelvin, but I've set it to a bluer color, and you could see the video from before. The light in here looked very reddish brownish. And also I've set it to ISO 100, and an EV value right now is 00. But you could go in here and you could select any other white balance you want, or you could select the LEDs. So if it's really dark and you're using the LEDs, you want to select the LED color balance to get the best possible color. In most of the time, if it's daylight, the LEDs are just going to become kind of a fill light, so stuff around you gets picked up a little bit more by the LED. Stuff you very rarely see white paper in the water, so I would suggest going into the EV value and maybe even make it kind of -1/3 or maybe even -0.7 here. So go and pick like -0.7, because underwater world is fairly dark and you want to try to get the camera to capture the look. And especially one thing I hate with underwater is when people are burning out because everything's kind of dark, but then there is a white fish or something coming by and it's almost burned out. So you want to try to hit the compensation that really gives you the look you're looking for without burning the fish out. Up here we have the option to go take a look at pictures from the onboard gallery. And that's an important thing to be aware about. There is a 64 gigabyte memory card, or 32 gigabyte I think, in here, which is more than enough, but you can't take it out because this is a waterproof body. So to get video out of here to here, you basically have to pull it through the network connection and download it into your phone, and then from your phone you can dump it like with AirDrop to your laptop or something like that. Because of that, when you start recording video, there's a 5-minute max time limit. So you have to get in the habit of saying, oh, that's a great shot, hit record, just push the button, start recording it, let it roll, and oops, we're relocating, stop the record. So they do. It's better to have shorter ones because they unload quicker. Same thing with the JPEGs. Use the button, click, 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 take as many as you want, but also get good shots. Now, before we start going diving and start shooting some videos and get disappointed, let's talk about how to get better pictures with a PowerRAY. There's a couple of things to keep in mind here. Remember, at the very beginning I said, this is like a fixed wing aircraft, a really slow moving fixed wing aircraft. The slow moving part is of course important because we can land it like a fixed wing aircraft with a drone part built in, because it's possible to do vertical takeoff and landing with this. But the problem is, notice it is like a dart. Here is the biggest wing area down here. Here's the thrusters like on a jet. And then we have the lift body in this. So when you hit the throttle really good, it's gonna do like this and go up, because the lift motor is in front of the center, and there's a very good reason for that. Same thing, if you really punch it down, it's gonna do this and go down, because it's gonna pull here, but it's gonna show resistance up here because that's where the wings are. That's how these kind of systems works. But that's a good thing, because that's what allows us to have a very stable, smooth forward swimming through the water. So this is really intended to be able to swim with the fish, swim with whatever is in the water, and have a very steady forward motion, because it is kind of like a lifting body fixed wing aircraft, more or less. All right? Now, the problem is, so we're hanging still and we want to get something. You really gotta feather the sticks. Don't like mash them, because then it's gonna change the pitch of the aircraft. What you want is just a gentle lift if you're gonna just lift the camera. So just give it enough that it's not pulling itself down or up anymore, just enough that it starts changing its height up or down. But don't mash it, because it's gonna do like that, and that really doesn't look good on video. The best tracking shots with this is, and because it's a lifting, remember I mentioned when the power goes off, this is just gonna come up. So this one always has to run to keep it under the surface. And that's really important to realize, because it's always on. And that means, so basically when you're moving forward, this becomes like a wing that's pulling it down, and you use this one to change the angle of that wing. So if you want this long, steady forward shot, then you just kind of like find an angle that's keeping the height you want, and then you fly through the water with this reversed wing, pushing it to the height where you want it to be. And if you gun it, then this angle is gonna push it down more, so you have to reduce the angle in order to hold the height in the water. I'm just saying this because you wanna have that in mind once you start filming, because really great, super stable shot comes from you not changing this. So pick your angle, pick your throttle, and then just let the camera float through the water, and that's gonna get you a really stable, sweet shot. Now keep in mind, it shoots 4K. It is not a stabilized camera, but it shoots 4K. So you could just simply shoot in 4K, and you are gonna see a couple of little movements as the craft moves. You could run that to one of the simple Macaulay's or one of the other stabilizing apps in post, if you really want to lock it down. But now, really quickly, as we're wrapping this up here, this is the drone. The base kit comes with this, the drone, and I believe it's like 300 feet of 150, I don't know. I haven't measured it yet. And it comes with one thing of the tether. So this here, plus the drone, will allow you to fly it with a phone, which is really all you need to get underwater and get good shots. The fully loaded kit comes with the sticks the virtual reality goggles, which I'm looking forward to try, and the sonar, which I installed down here. So that comes with a fully loaded kit, and it's about 1,800 bucks. That's a pretty damn good value, really. It's a cool small drone, but the $1,400 starting kit is really cool also. Do me a favor, put some comments below here. What can we use these things for? What should I try? What should I test? The one thing I know right now, because I've got friends down in the marina here in Marina del Rey, and they're constantly having people come out and inspect hulls because they deal with yachts. So you know what I'm going to be doing? I'm going to go down to see Trent and check out his Janu 64 and do a hull inspection together with him to see how easy it is. And now, doing an underwater hull inspection is something people pay money for. Because all of us who has been flying drones for a while, we have all discovered that you can make money flying drones. Of course, you need a Part 107 to charge, but you don't need Part nothing to fly this thing in the harbor and charge for your services. And if you were to T-bone a supertanker with this thing, guess what? The supertanker won't even notice. Because this thing up against the ferry boat, nobody cares. It's not even gonna dent the paint job. That's what's beautiful about this. You can take it with you, you can put it in the harbor, in the marina, in a body of water anywhere, and charge somebody to do a hull inspection, or maybe charge somebody to do a grid across the entire marina to do a very exact survey of the depth in the marina. And talking about grids and depth maps, keep in mind there's also the Power Dolphin that we looked at earlier at CES. It has not arrived yet. I'm supposed to get one. But what's really cool about that is it uses the sonar, but it also has an onboard GPS. So you can actually lay out a grid pattern on your tablet and have it do surveys for exactly that. So that's like an $800 remote control drone with return to home and GPS that allows you to do grid, to create a three-dimensional map of a marina. I remember when I grew up and a lot of time on sailboats, they were constantly staking out the marinas, get the exact height to know where they needed to remove sand to keep them deep enough. I bet you these tools can be used to sell some services. So guys, do me a favor down in the comments here, make some comments. What can we do with this that might actually make us some money? And what can we do with this that's gonna be damn fun to do? Comment down here and let's see what we can do with it and create some videos. So that's it. I'm gonna charge it all. I'm gonna take it out and get some videos. So stay tuned for more videos later this week. And of course, also click in the corner of the picture where it says subscribe for more FPV guide videos.